Welcome to the Mr. Beacon podcast. We've talked a lot about Ambient IoT over the years, this new generation of Internet of Things where everything gets connected. And yep, battery-free Bluetooth tags are one of the key elements. But actually designing the project, designing the infrastructure, choosing the scope, these are all other very important elements, and there's no one that knows more about this from a practical point of view than Matan. He is a polymath. He knows lots of different things, and he's a squad leader within Wiliot that has worked with an enormous range of extremely large companies putting this technology to use. And I got a chance to talk with him for about an hour about his career, about his music tastes, but also about all of the lessons that he's learnt using this technology over the years. I hope you find it as interesting and useful as I did. Check it out. Matan, welcome to the Mr. Beacon podcast.
Thank you for hosting me.
Oh, it's a real pleasure. I think you're doing interesting work. There's a lot of people doing interesting work at Wiliot, and I really try and make the show open, balanced. We cover competitors or at least alternative technologies, but I really felt like you are one of the people that has had the most amazing journey, because you have worked with so many of our customers, and I really wanted to have a conversation with you about the sorts of things those customers are doing, so the use cases, the applications, and as you're a squad leader, you know, I'm doing the hand-waving part of it, trying to get people to come and get engaged, but you're actually the person that's responsible for making it work. And so you've learned a lot about something that's never been done before, these tiny postage stamp sized compute devices, and they're constantly streaming data, and how do we turn that into insights, and how do we turn the insights into business value? So I think you've got a lot in your head that a lot of other people want to know. So let's unpack it a little bit, and let's start off. Just give us a sense of the breadth of all the different sorts of use cases that you've worked on, because you've worked on lots of different things, and then we'll zoom in on a few of the key applications that are really bearing fruit now. But give us a sense of the breadth of what you've worked on.
Wow. So yeah, I've been in the company almost 5 years, and transitioned like after the first year probably from engineering to working with customers, and I've seen from use cases from knowing what's on your shelf, using the tag to sense the shelf itself.
Yes. So almost like a proximity sensor.
Yep. For medicine, we did vaccines back at COVID, if you remember.
That was amazing. So a tiny vaccine vial, tiny, with
our tag.
With a Bluetooth sticker on, and it could tell not only where it was and that it was authentic, but the temperature.
And the dilution.
And the dilution.
The dilution level of the vial, which was very important with COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you didn't want to get injected by undiluted vaccine. But most important, in my opinion, the most important thing was continuous temperature sensing, because you certainly, you know, some of those vaccines, you keep them at the wrong temperature for half an hour and it does you zero good.
Yep.
So that was amazing. And I think that's actually the first time I saw you was on this video of where you showed this thing working and being taken out of cryogenic freezing. And
that was a fun couple of weeks when we turned around the team. You know, I was just maybe the face, but we turned around from a design of a new antenna to a use case, to the cloud features and functionalities. And it was a time that there was no flights. No one was flying. It was COVID. And I flew to Boston to a company that made the vaccines. And you know, we demoed it, and it was amazing.
And I can tell you they were impressed, and I'll tell you why I can tell you, because I met the guy that was our customer yesterday.
Really?
In Atlanta at a conference. And I'm like looking at him, we're having drinks the evening before the meeting, and I'm like, you look really familiar. And it's like, oh my gosh, we spoke with each other. In those days, I was heading up sales for Williot. So and I can tell you that they were just blown away by the work that you did. So well done.
I was just the face. It was the whole team that did the job.
It was the whole company.
The whole company
focused on making it work.
that. So with vaccines, we did tracking cars in parking for new cars that are in dealerships. Mm-hmm. So they pass through a couple of stations, and the dealership wanted to know where the cars are. Mm-hmm. We did tracking of potatoes. You remember the potatoes?
I do. I do. From field.
So from field to storage, turns out, and again, I have a data background, a bit engineering, but I learned so much on supply chains and storage. So when you buy fries, or chips actually, they are pretty fresh. Mm-hmm. They have like 3 months expiration date, which is not a lot for chips. Mm-hmm. But the potatoes also are fresh because there is 6 months season of potatoes. So you get fresh potatoes, and when it's not the season of potatoes, they store them for 6 months. So there is a cycle of a year almost. And the storage is very, very sensitive because potatoes are alive. Mm-hmm. So they can, if there is too much humidity, they get rotten. If there is too much heat, they start to grow again. Yeah. And you don't want it. You want the right taste. Mm-hmm. So the humidity is important, and the temperature is important. And what we went, and that was really back then, before there was the squad even. I went, and I was like a MacGyver, and I tagged the whole warehouse. So I took a forklift, and it took me up, and I just tagged all the pallets. It was like 5 stories high of those big pallets of potatoes. And what we created, and that was, I think, one of the coolest data insights we started to generate in the beginning, was a 3D structure of these potato pallets with temperature.
So a 3-dimensional heat map in real time.
In real time.
Yeah.
Of course, you take an average, you see if you have issues, but that enabled continuous improvement of the surrounding of the potato, the environment, the temperature, the humidity, eventually to get the product and to lose, not to throw too many potatoes in the process of making us fries. Yeah.
So this is the potato chip company?
That's a potato chip company.
Okay.
The biggest you have.
And then you did literally the grocery farm to store.
So all those, it's interesting. All those projects were around the same time.
Yes.
And that was the time I moved from core engineering, building models, data science, building the infrastructure. Just recently, we started to change as a maturing company, and we didn't know how to introduce the data to customers. So Tal, our CEO, asked me to join him and to go to customers in Israel and understand their problem and see how can we solve them using our tech. Mm-hmm. So all of those stories are almost at the same time. We just went to customers and say, hey, what challenge do you have? Let's try to solve it. Matan is going to come in. He's going to do everything. And from a data scientist, I became a solution engineer. I do solutions now. And we went to one of the biggest retailers in Israel. And they had an issue with their supply chain, with their first supply chain. And they wanted to know everything is automated in the supply chain. And this is unique to this retailer in Israel. It's very pro-technology. So his whole distribution center is automated, and he claimed everything is fresh, everything doesn't stand in the DC more than 2 days, mm-hmm. and the supplies are the problem. Mm-hmm. It takes too much time from the moment they pick the vegetables until it gets to the DC. After that, it's perfect. So we said, okay, no problem. Let's try to show you two edges. We take one supplier, we take a few stores, and we see the whole flow. So we found a zucchini supplier that supplied the whole supply of this retailer for zucchinis. So one supplier, whole zucchinis for 400 stores. And we tagged all the zucchini crates that were going from this supplier to the DC, to the stores, and we met them in the store. And we saw a lot of gaps. So we saw that the time it goes from the supplier until it arrives to the store could be 10 days, 12 days. But the claim was it doesn't stay in the DC more than 2 days. So where does this time goes? And they found out eventually that it is in the DC. And it's in the inbound. It's spending more time in the inbound than what they thought. So only looking at the edges started to give a lot of information to the customer and to find those problems in his system that he could fix easily.
I mean, you and the company as a whole has been working with so many customers. It's amazing. I think, by my count, there's probably 800 people that have bought kits, played with the technology. Overall, the feedback's been really good. We've surveyed them and we got amazing results. But what we found, in my opinion, is that this is a paradigm shift. It's not just like taking a widget and putting something that goes faster or is cheaper. It's a paradigm shift to holistic, continuous visibility. It's not when you tap, it's not when you scan. So the volume of data is massive, and more data is good, but actually sifting it and finding the things that you're really interested in, making it actionable is hard. So it seems like what we figured out is in these early days, we need to be involved in order to make it work. And you're leading one of the squads that has seen a lot of action. And again, by my count, we've probably had like 50 pilots, proof of concepts, call them what you will, where we've had some great experiences, and many of them have been very, very successful technically and actually successful from a business point of view, but for good reasons or bad, they've just not gone into mass production. I mean, one was, I remember we were gonna scale with one of the biggest logistics companies in the world, and I spent a whole day training their entire director and above management in this new Ambient IoT technology that was going to allow these parcels to be tracked in real time around the worldwide network. And then they basically got rid of all the senior management and boom, you're starting from the beginning again. So we've had a lot of those experiences. But the cool thing is you've been involved in some of the other projects, which are a handful of incredibly large projects for some of the biggest companies in the world that are scaling.
I guess I'm just lucky, I don't know.
Yeah, you're like the Zelig of, for Woody Allen fans, maybe they'll mean, Matan keeps on showing up in these historic times, historic situations. So there's one use case that hasn't scaled yet, which I think is really interesting, that I want to talk about, because what we find is you don't just put an enterprise online overnight. You don't give omniscient visibility of everything. You have to slice it, dice it, start somewhere and grow from there. And generally speaking, our customers have either taken a narrow use case or they've maybe taken part of the supply chain and just tracked from the DC to the store. But there's one project that you worked on which I think is super interesting, where it literally went from the dock to the store. So it really went end to end from the point that the fish was caught to the store. Can you tell us a little about a bit? And we've actually done a few of these, so you can maybe interchange a few of the pieces to protect the innocent. But I remember at least one of those projects where you came back and you kind of filed this report, and it was like oh dear, everything's pristine. This looks like there's absolutely no problems at all. Because we're looking for problems that we can solve, right? Tell us a bit.
We're looking for opportunities. I won't call them problems.
Opportunities to make things better.
Yeah. So I think the end-to-end approach, as I said also on the retailers in Israel, we started with edge. So we started with supplier to store, which we everything in the middle we just didn't see, and of course that was kind of giving him a bite, and he wanted to see more. So we started to fill in the gaps for this retailer, and we've done this also for a retailer in the US. It wasn't for fresh, but for not fresh, from supplier to store, including the DC, and we've done it in different countries. End to end, and the project specifically you're referring to is really interesting. You have different stakeholders at each end. So if we're going from a supplier, you have a supplier, maybe he's actually producing the produce, if it's cutting the zucchinis or packing meat or orange juice, right? We've seen also orange juice. So you have the supplier, he's professional in this, and usually he's not really great on logistics. So he uses a third party to ship his supply to his customer, which is the retailer. And so that's usually the primary shipment or the first shipment. So really two hands, right? We have the supplier shipment. It goes into the DC, the distribution center. Sometimes you have also more cross docks in the middle, but let's take a simple supply chain. You have the distribution center where you have it goes inbound, can stay at the inbound for a couple of hours, maybe a couple of days, go into storage, then would go to picking. So have either automatically or people go and pick pallets, and those pallets will go to the store. That was third hand at least. It will go to a store usually with transportation of the retailer. So that would be the secondary freight. Fourth hand, arrive to the store, and then probably also stay a bit in the inbound of the store, go to cooler, and then go to the front of the store for you to buy it. So already 5, 6, maybe 7 hands, where every hand is like an agent problem, right? You want to optimize the supply chain, but you also want to optimize your benefits, your KPIs, and there is not enough information that is flowing end to end, which could optimize the entire KPI. Or you have minimum time. If we're talking about fresh, the right temperature, the right timing, eventually for you, the customer, to get the best product when you go and buy it on the shelf. You don't know if one package of product has been in a different journey, and which one should you choose? You're innocent. You want to choose the best one. You want to choose one. So what we find, we found a lot of things, but those are all opportunities. At each of those hands or agents, they want to improve their operation, but the goal eventually, and you see it from everyone, the customer is the goal. The person who's going to eat the meat, the milk, the fish, his end goal, he needs to be happy, and everyone is driving this. So at every step, we find many opportunities. Other than the supplier, where sometimes he doesn't know what would be the order quantity. So he produces until he gets an order, and he may have extras, and those extras are going to be sent the next day with a new shipment. So you already have a mixed shipment, but how is it managed when it goes to the DC, right? So you need to know that you have a mixed pallet, and maybe how to pick this pallet or where to put this pallet. We've seen issues of FIFO, also in the distribution center.
So first in, first out, theoretically, is actually not first in, first out.
Yeah, because it may be first in, first out, because this is the order that it came in, but it wasn't the order that it was produced.
Right.
So it's not first expiry, first out.
Yes.
Because it's hard to manage in supply chain or in those systems.
So if we have identifiers that are put on early where the tracking is automatic, you're not relying on scanning, then you can start to see when the queuing goes wrong. And you know, I think kind of the first stage is let's really have first in, first out. Let's not have zucchinis that are sitting at the back of the packing shed for several days when they should only be there for a few hours in the heat of the sun on the farm. And at every stage you can get, the order can go wrong, right? And so the first level is let's try and avoid that happening. And then, you know, it seems like you can graduate to accumulating temperature over time, and then you say, no, we're actually gonna, but this unfortunately got left out in the heat, and so we're gonna give it a fast track so that we can use it before it goes bad.
The best case scenario that, you know, you have an expiration date that is given to the product, but as we see the journey, we can have a dynamic expiration date. Something that was kept in better environment may have longer expiration date. On the other hand, something that was in the heat was in a trailer, and we've seen it, a trailer that the temperature goes up and down, something that, talk about maybe strawberries, and they need to be in 5 degrees Celsius, and we see them freezing and going up to 10 degrees freezing. That's logistics. We can improve it, the company can go and improve the trucks, maybe there is an issue, but those strawberries, this specific batch probably should be sold earlier, maybe in a discount even, right? Because you don't want to waste. You want customers to know what they're buying, to use it, and to pay the right price. Otherwise, it's going to sit in the store for 2 days, and it's going to start to be mushy, and no one will buy it. That's strawberry use case.
So, what is your sense of the opportunity to fix things? I think when you don't know what's happening, you know, I always assume this stuff kind of works pretty well. But I think what we're seeing is that there are more problems than people know, simply because when you turn the lights on, then you start to see that.
So one of the concern always with working with, when we do end-to-end, 5, 6, 7 hands, is that not all parties are going to participate, right? Because you may find what we call opportunities, which for them is more work or change of process. And you know, if it's not broken, why fix it? But what we've seen time and again, and I remember this quote is like, if we don't know what's the problem, we cannot fix it. And those are managers that always want to optimize. They always want to be more efficient. They always want to get their next customer in line happy. So if it's the DC, it's the store or the trailer, right? If it's a store, it's the customer. If it's a supplier, it's the DC. They want to make everyone happy. And there is always an opportunity to fix. And there is always happy to find it. And I think there are two, you can approach opportunities you can segment it into two things, two opportunities. One is you can look at the data, do analysis of the data and improve operations. Because you see that there is an issue that happens time and again. So you go into the store, and when a shipment arrives, it always stays 2 hours in the back room. And this is something that can be improved. Why? Because probably you don't have enough staffing for the store, or the store doesn't know the ETA, the arrival time of the trailer, so they're not prepared in time. And we've seen it. So this is just looking at data over time, seeing trends, and that could be in the entire supply chain, and fixing it. And then you probably fix it once. But since it's people and it's supply chain, and there is a lot of unknowns, you have opportunities that you could fix in real time. For example, a pallet was missorted. It was loaded to trailer 1, that is going to store 1, but it was supposed to be loaded to trailer 2, which is going to store 2. If you catch it on time, and this can be a simple alert, maybe a light above the dock door, you save a lot of money.
So I want to kind of turn the spotlight on that because we've had a free-ranging conversation. We've talked about a lot of things that go wrong that can be fixed, but this very simple thing seems to be one of the areas which is low-hanging fruit, which is essentially preempting misshipments for valuable things. And, you can solve this problem in lots of different ways, but it turns out that putting a Bluetooth sticker on something allows you to spot misshipments without relying on manual scanning and without relying on a lot of expensive infrastructure. You've got low-cost infrastructure, no manual intervention, and you're preempting something that goes wrong more often than anyone would have thought. It seems like there's more misshipments than we expected to see. Is that fair to say?
It really depends on the operation.
Okay.
What I've seen, that it always happens. Again, not because people are bad or doing it intentionally, it's because we're human and we make mistakes. And we've seen probably 1% in terms of pallet level, and 1% is a lot. It means that probably every 4 shipment you have a wrong pallet on a truck. This can be eliminated. We've seen processes to eliminate it with scans. So every time a pallet is going to be loaded to a trailer, you scan the pallet and you scan the trailer. This adds labor. And again, because it's an operational environment with stress, with noise, with people that are working on forklifts for 8 hours, sometimes they forget to scan. So this data is not always accurate. And what we come and do, and we replace it. We put a really cheap infrastructure on the dock door. We put a cheap pixel on the pallet itself. And then you get a miscert alert when the pallet is going on the trailer. But the nice thing, this pallet is still tagged. So when it's going to arrive to its destination, you're going to get an unload signal to know that the pallet has arrived. And if it's a pallet that needs to be in cold chain and it's left on the dock door, then this is only with dock door infrastructure, you would know that the pallet is left in the back room and get an alert to take it to cold storage. So this is with one tag, we just did an end-to-end with one tag, and it was a really, really simple use case.
Yeah. I think it's a difficult question to answer. So maybe there isn't an answer. Maybe there are just things to consider. The question of do I do end-to-end, or do I try and optimize one step in the supply chain? Do I just focus on DC to store, if we take a grocery example? What do you think the pros and cons are of your customer who started tagging at the straight off of the boat when the fish was caught, and then they see it all the way into the store and see that, versus just starting at the DC and going to the store? We've seen both.
We've seen both.
Both can work.
Both can work. It's usually a number game. So it's a balance between how much time do you want to invest in seeing enough product arriving to your end destination. So if we take one supplier, like we did with the zucchinis, and he supplies for the whole country, and in the edge, you're only at 5 stores. It means that you see 1%. In order to see enough of zucchinis coming into that store and seeing the whole journey, even if you're in the DC, so you want to see the whole journey, then you need to do a lot of zucchinis, or a lot of time, couple of months. So this is one approach. So you see the end-to-end, it takes you a lot of time. Another approach is, let's start with something limited. We're taking 1 store or 2 stores, but we're tagging everything that is going to those stores. So in a week, you probably get the same amount of data. Both approaches are right to start with. And I like starting with both approaches. I prefer to start with approach that you see end to end, at least for a couple of weeks. And then you optimize to a specific use case, you start to scale it. So like sort, for example, and you start to build around it. You add a layer and add a layer. You can always add more layers, right? But it's also always, we always need to hear, what's the customer pain point. Just today, I talked to I'm working now with one of the biggest online retailers, and it has different business verticals, and with two different verticals. One is taking the I want to see everything fast approach. So we're going to do a quick 1 week, we see everything, and then decide what's the most important things to start with. And another customer, he knows what's his problem, another vertical. He wants to do only from what he calls inbound. So knowing that product has arrived. It's the only thing that he wants to know today. He will expand it later on.
Very interesting. Yeah, and I think, you do the kind of the sample, you see end to end, you see where the opportunities are, and you figure out where's the ROI that I can start to justify that. And I think, one of the few projects you haven't worked on, our postal customer, they started off by not lighting up the dock doors, but lighting up the trucks. And now they've got like 5,000 trucks online, and they can see all of the rolling cages, hundreds of thousands of rolling cages in the trucks. And I think they were super smart because they realized if I can see the load factor, if I can see the utilization of the trucks, then I can prove the ROI of tagging hundreds of thousands of these rolling cages, and I can start to see where they were left, where they didn't come back. And they didn't light up everything. They didn't light up all of the sorting offices. They just started with the trucks, and there was enough of an ROI that they were, this project has got huge momentum now, and now they can go and start to turn the lights on in the sorting centers. And I think that seems to be the way it's going to go. Well, the most skilled customers, and it's an art, it's a skill to figure out how am I going to make the business case, how am I going to show the return, and then how am I going to build. I think they'll identify that pain point, limit the scope to something where they can get a result relatively quickly, and then expand from there.
I'll add to it one thing is that I think Wiliot as a company has matured a lot as well over the years. Where when we went 4 years ago and we installed and what to see the edges, part of it was us learning. And today we can come with a lot of confidence and say, we can give you those 3 solutions. We can connect them and see end to end, but we have a mature solution that we can do for you, which is only roll cages on trucks or only dock door compliance. So those solutions, which we have matured over time, are also a way to start, because it's less of an exploration. You come with a built and proven solution, and you can expand from there. And this is also helping customers to understand where they want to start. And it's also a double-edged sword for us. The thing with Wiliot is you want to be everywhere, right? You tag once at the supplier, you see everywhere. But where do you start? You cannot blow up the entire system and change it overnight. You have to start gradually. You have to, it's like the frog in hot water, right? Slowly.
And what are the things that you've seen work in terms of the softer skills? What have the customers done that you like that seem to be a recipe for success? We've been talking about the scope and where you start, but are there other things that you've observed, best practices?
Well, eventually we provide customers data. And the strongest customers that I've seen are the ones that understand the value of the data, what it gives, and how to use it, how to implement it. Because if you know what data you want, we'll make it happen. Sometimes the customer doesn't know exactly what data does he want, or how does he want it to look, and what value will it give him. So we do a lot of exploration in the physical world.
Mm-hmm.
We install a lot of infrastructure, and those iterations are long and tedious. But when a customer comes and say, hey, I want to know one thing, I want to know misort. Give it to me fast. Don't give me too many false positives. Focus only on this. So this is the use case. We know the use case. We know what data does the customer want. Mm-hmm. Then we can build a solution, optimize a solution that will answer his needs. Mm-hmm. And in my mind, that moves the fastest and shows the value to the customer, and not only shows the value, goes into operation and production.
Have you seen any patterns in terms of the structure of the project, kind of executive sponsors? What sort of disciplines do you need on a project to make it work?
It's a balance between being open to innovation, but at the same time, as a customer, being with their foot on the ground and know exactly what they want, because it's not an innovation game. We want to provide value. So what I usually found that works well is executives who come from operations, that they know the problem, that they feel the problem, but somewhere in their life journey, professional journey, they've done something that is tech related. Mm-hmm. Maybe they have data background and they went into operations, or maybe they have RF background and
radio frequency.
Yep.
Yeah.
Radio frequency, and then they went into operations. But what always helps are people who feel the pain. Mm-hmm. They know what they want to solve, and they have enough experience also with the operational teams that they can go and sell this internally.
Yeah, I think it's a platitude, but it seems like what I've observed is there's a pretty high-level executive sponsor. I mean, there are some it's always good to have an executive sponsor, but I think with ambient Internet of Things technology, when you're reconfiguring a supply chain, you're almost always going across functions and you're changing the way people work. And so if you don't have a pretty senior executive that has real power and gets it, then it's very hard to make it work.
We don't change only how people work, we change also how people think. So if we take a simple dock door example, today, in most logistics chains, you want 100% accuracy, right? Mm. You want to know that 100% of your pallets are loaded to the trailer. And with radio frequency, you get close to it, but you don't get 100%. But you know what? Also with scans, you don't get 100%. You get 70% usually, right? When people scan. So it's a change of paradigm, and you need this flexibility, and you need this executive that could help and convince that this is important.
I think it's actually a really important point. It reminds me of the self-driving car thing. Self-driving cars will kill people. It's just that they'll kill a lot less people than human beings driving. So do we stick with human beings driving, or do we move to a system where and obviously we're not there yet, but in the future, self-driving cars will be 2, 3, 4 times as safe, but they will kill people occasionally. And I think when you've got something new, it's very tempting for people to say, I'm exposed here. I want to see 100% accuracy. And if you can give people almost 100% accuracy, but it becomes very expensive. And then the whole benefit starts to fall apart. You over-configure the infrastructure. You make the process more complicated. But I think, what I see is if people are willing to open up their minds to the fact that we can give you a continuous view of inventory and assets moving around, not a dot, but a line. And when we do that, we can afford to have a few mistakes because we'll fix them because we lose sight of something. There's some water that gets in the way, a metal rolling cage gets in the way, and then you see it again, and we've got the cloud and we can string it together. So people need to sort of, basically it's like learning to swim. You have to just eventually let go and go for it.
You have to trust, and you have to have talented people that know how to work with the data.
Yeah. So tell me, what does a squad look like? So we talked a bit about this, but let's come at it from a different angle. If I'm going to build my own squad, and most of the squads are willing, we come in, we have all this multidisciplinary team, and things happen pretty fast. But what does it take to take these Bluetooth stickers and get them to talk to Bluetooth radios and integrate them into enterprise systems?
So how we build squads is based on proficiencies. And the squad can be big or small, but the proficiencies are important.
Mm-hmm.
You need a leader of the squad that could work with customers, that understand their pain points and bring it back to the squads, and also to the R&D is needed. You have data proficiency, and that could be also squad leader. Squad can be one person. I was a squad leader. I was one squad leader for a while, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that can work with the data, that can develop new functionalities or what we call business events that will be sent to the customer. Usually on the squad we have field engineers as well. So go and do a site survey, install, test, iterate on the installations. So those are field engineers or field technicians.
I want to go back, take a step back. So I think the field technicians, this is pretty clear. You need people that can put up the readers in the right place and develop a process for doing that can scale. In one case, we've got a customer that's lighting up 2 big box stores a day, and they've figured out, we need a mobile app that will allow low-skilled people not familiar to do these things and make it easy to really have lots and lots of people deploying this infrastructure. But I want to take this data person. So we have a tag. It's broadcasting maybe hundreds or thousands of these packets. And what does this data analyst, data scientist do to take all of these low-level broadcasts, which is basically a tag saying, I'm here, I'm here, I'm here, and then that signal gets read by potentially not one, but many readers. How do you turn that into a business event, and what is a business event?
So it's a great question. It all comes from the business need, right? So a squad leader will work with the customer to understand where are the pain points, what use case are we trying to solve, and what the structure of the data that will solve this use case. For example, when we talked about we use this example a lot, but the mis-sorting. So you want to know that a pallet was loaded to the right trailer. So the use case, if we go higher level, when we talk to the customer, he has a problem that pallets are loaded to the wrong trailer. The data that he needs is, tell me to which dock door, because I don't know the trailer, we doesn't know which trailer. Tell me to which dock door is this pallet loaded. And we put KPIs on this. Tell me it up to 5 minutes after the load, with 95 or 98%.
Why don't you tell me immediately? Why do I not want to know within 5 seconds?
Maybe you want to know within 5 seconds, but how much are you willing to pay for it?
Yeah.
So it's always a balance between the amount of infrastructure and also the cloud cost of actually processing it that fast, or maybe doing it even on the edge, and to what the customer needs.
And also, I guess there's the case where something gets loaded on a truck. It hasn't really been loaded on the truck. It's just that someone carried it in there and then they carried it out and they put it on another truck. So if you...
But you can give a couple of signals, and that's fun.
Yes.
Maybe you want to build the confidence, and we can add also a confidence level in the data events that we give. So once we have those, the use case and the data event requirements, then we have a solution engineer, which is part of the proficiency of the squad, which really understands how our tag works and what's the network. When you said readers, I don't like to call them readers. They don't only read, they energize, and they also give more data when they receive the tags and upload the data. So we have a solution engineer which really knows how the tag works, how the network works, and how the cloud works. So together with the data scientists of the squad, they sit together and they design a solution. And where the solution or the network will come with different configurations of, going back to the dock door, what infrastructure will be installed on the dock door, or maybe, and this is we actually like it better, maybe no infrastructure on the dock door, only the forklift, because a pallet doesn't go on its own to a truck, it will go on a forklift. And this forklift can be our network of saying, I'm a forklift and I loaded it into a trailer or through a dock door. And that's actually much cheaper and even faster.
So the forklift is energizing the tag, it's reading the tag, and somehow you're tracking where the forklift is. So if you know where the forklift is and you know that it's seen a trailer and you start to track the movement of it, then you can start to get pretty smart about what's happening.
And mobile infrastructure is the future. This is how we go. So going back to how we build the solution and what's a business event, the solution engineer is going to work on the solution, simulate it as well on a simulation platform that we have. And the output of the simulation would go to the data proficiency of the squad. Again, it may be the same person, but the data proficiency will ingest this data and start to work on algorithms that will give you the cleanest signal, because the customer doesn't want to know all the small movements in all the multiple hundreds of signals. He only wants to know when defined by the event, by the business event requirements, I want to know that the pallet was loaded to a dock door. So the data scientist will build a model to extract this in the highest accuracy with the lowest false positives. And this is all based on simulation. The next iteration would be for exactly the same team to go to the field and test it and optimize it and understand why the simulation didn't simulate all the other edge cases. And at the end of this process, this small team is going to deploy a business event to the cloud, and this is what the customer is going to consume.
So the customer is just interested about a missort or a misload, and that's their business event. But there's some parameters around how quickly they need to see it and what level of accuracy is going to give them the return on investment that justifies all this. So that's what a business event is. And then you describe, it seems like there's a recipe here for where you have the readers. Are they going to be in people's pockets? Are they going to be on a forklift truck? Are they going to be bridges, gateways, readers, the Bluetooth devices? Are they going to be by the dock doors? What do we call that?
So eventually the solution is going to build into a blueprint. And we have a great team, our customer success team, which kind of build this recipe of how to build a blueprint. What process do we do eventually to give the customer this blueprint, which explains exactly how should you build your deployment in order to get to the KPIs that were agreed upon. And this blueprint is not only where to install. You think of a blueprint and you think of a blueprint. I think both our father are architects, so
Yes.
we are familiar with blueprints. But the blueprints actually gives you the way to validate the installation. and the KPIs and the monitoring tools that will monitor that the KPIs are actually always met. And when we deviate from those KPIs, it will alert, and we'll have also tools as part of the blueprint to know why did we deviate. Maybe it was a change in process. Maybe after 2 years, the customer changed their forklift. It's now twice as faster. Maybe it has drones taking pallets into, I don't know what will happen in the future, right? So we always need to monitor, and we have a data quality team that does it.
Very good. We've covered a lot, and I kind of want to quit whilst we're ahead, because I think we've covered a range of use cases. We've talked a bit about the shape of a project and whether you should, what are the considerations of going end to end? What are the considerations of just kind of doing a stage? We've talked about the structure of the team, how we take business requirements. We define business events. There are key performance indicators. We contract for that. And we design a blueprint that basically specifies how we're going to replicate this at scale. Is there any other key things that we need to cover?
Let's have fun. Yeah.
It is fun.
It's part of it. We do it all, but it's every day. It's never a boring day here. We're always learning, and we're always improving our product, and everything that we just talked about it came from doing thousands of mistakes and learning.
Yeah.
And we have a great team that is able to learn and smart enough to create solutions and think of how to solve problems that you didn't know that existed a week ago.
I think that's true. And part of fun is, what's the difference between work and play? And one is kind of, you've got clear goals. When you play a game, and the goals are very clear. Reality tends to be a bit fuzzy, but I think there's a lot that unites us. There's sort of this excitement about all the problems that can be solved if you take all of that intelligence in the cloud, AI and cloud computing, and apply it to the physical world. And I think we've seen enough, be it vaccine vials or fish or potatoes, of problems that can be solved. And when we solve them, we're going to make life better. We're going to reduce waste. We're going to make food taste better. And we're going to reduce carbon footprint. And it's not often that you get to do something where you can really make life better. And, I'm hoping that other people get to join in as we scale and solve some really important problems, whether they're to do with the environment or the cost of food or the efficiency of how we tackle healthcare. The opportunity is huge, and I think we all see that, and it's tremendously exciting to see real progress being made in solving these real practical problems at scale. And you're one of the people that is at the front line that's making it happen. How did you find your way to Williot, Matan?
I won't go in all my background, but...
Well, I mean, I have, and like you were commander in the IDF, you were heavy stuff. Lots of people, lots of responsibility, things that a lot of people in my part of the world never experience.
But this is something that everyone does in Israel. So
yeah,
army, like everyone, studied in university. I went into industrial engineering, and this is kind of the engineering that you go if you don't know what you want to do. It kind of touches everything. And I really liked working with data and writing code. So I explored a master's and did more data science master. And I worked on curious algorithms, which today we call AI, right? So it's deep learning and reinforcement learning. Really cool PI, really interesting laboratory. And in parallel also did my MBA. So I always were on kind of between coding, data, tech, and business. So maybe a bit product. I worked a bit at Intel as a data scientist, so optimizing CPUs with data. And then tried to do my own startup. So we worked a couple of months and weren't able to fund and get to raise money.
But it was an interesting idea. Tell us what the idea was.
So it wasn't my idea. When I came back from my MBA, I did my MBA partially here in Michigan, in Ross Business School. So I came back from my MBA, finished my MBA, master's degree in engineering, thought I can do everything. Said, okay, let's open a startup, joined a friend from school, and it's called iIndustry. That was the name of the startup, where we tried to create a professional social network for professionals that are not, tech or finance, but for the talent industry, for TV, for filmmakers, for actors, which today they work a lot with agents, which cut a lot of the talent because they want to work with whoever is going to bring them most money. So new talents are hard to get in the industry, and they're kind of redundant. They get a lot of money there are good ones, but there are a lot, especially in Israel, a lot of that just block. So we tried to kind of fix this problem in the market. We had good support and we had a lot of actors, but we weren't able to get finance, and also some personal stuff. So we decided not to. Sometimes you need to decide where to stop.
Super important.
And I started to look for a job again. My wife, back then my girlfriend, told me that it's about time. So I had a couple of job opportunities, and a good friend who worked with me at Intel told me that he's working in this amazing startup and he's building the cloud team. There are only like 5 people, and he wants me to join and join the data part of the cloud team. And that was Zvika. Zvika is not in the company anymore, but that's how I joined the company.
Huh. So that was he had a lot of achievements, and one of them was bringing you. You've done some amazing work at Wiliot. Okay. Well, in the other part of the show, we explore a lot of that work. So let's get to the really personal stuff, which is the 3 songs that have most meaning for you.
Yeah, so that's, I think, the hardest part of today.
Yes.
So everyone will know already, if they haven't already, that I'm from Israel and my accent is Hebrew. So I'll have one song in Hebrew. So the first song, I'm gonna do it from like the light to the heavy.
Okay.
So the first song is Lovely Day, which is a fun song.
Bill Withers, right?
Yeah. Like when I wake up in the morning. So I have a daughter, she's a year and 2 months. Just started to walk this week.
Oh, congratulations. That's great.
And I just thought about it. Almost every morning I put this song for us, like in the morning. Yeah, just dance a bit and, see her face, and I'm happy, and it's going to be a wonderful day. That's the first song.
Fantastic.
Good start.
Yeah.
Second song that is meaningful for me, in Hebrew the name is Sweet Water, but the actual translation is probably fresh water. And it's telling a story about finding a fresh water in the desert, and how it resembles finding love in life. And you look a lot for it, and you may move some bushes and get hurt on the way and not find water. But then you find the fresh water, and it's something that me and my wife today, like in the beginning of the relationship, when we had some struggles, we listened to this song by an artist that I appreciate, Meir Ariel. So that's the second song.
All right. Lovely.
And the third song, which I chose, it's relevant to Israelis today. The name of the song is I'm Coming Home. There is a American version, but there is an Israeli version. Today it's 349 days that we have 101 hostages still in Gaza. So that's a meaningful song to me, and decided to bring it.
Yeah, that weighs heavily on a lot of people.
Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you, Matan. I really appreciate you coming on the podcast and sharing those songs and all of your experience.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching this episode of the Mr. Beacon Ambient IoT podcast here on YouTube. You can listen to this episode on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you enjoyed it, please like and share this video. And be sure to subscribe for more videos. For more information about Wiliot, Ambient IoT, and IoT Pixels, head over to wiliot.com.